All right. So I want to start out by thanking all of my viewers. And this is going to be a bit of a rant, and I hope the title didn't sound too clickbaity. But my most viewed video, far and away, has been, and still is, part 2 of a comparison I did between my original K-Bar USMC and the Becker BK knives in my collection. And I keep getting the same comment over and over and over again. Those knives don't look like they've been used at all. I don't think they've touched anything other than the inside of the sheath. And I've done follow-up videos to explain the reasons why. And you've seen me run tests and do modifications and other things. But, okay, honest self-inventory. On reflection, I realized that compared to a lot of the other knives in my collection, I really don't use those nearly as often. And I had to consider the reasons why. So today I wanted to talk about 4 things about those Becker BK knives that I'm really not happy with. And one thing that, yeah, is awesome about them. So let's honestly get into it. Okay, so in that original video, I gave everyone a look at my Becker BK7, BK2, BK10, and my daughter's BK9. Now, for today's video, I'm going to specifically concentrate on the BK7, the one I've had the longest but shows the least use. And again, it does come down to certain reasons why I just don't pick this knife up if I've got a grab and go task. So let's go ahead and start with the first thing. The sheath is, well, awful. First of all, it's just way too bulky for me to consider for a lot of just utility carry. So again, if I've got some kind of grab and go task where I want to grab a knife and strap it on my belt, I've got a job to do, yeah, I'm gonna pass this knife over in many cases just because of the sheath. And it's not just the size of it. There's 2 other things I've got to consider. One of which is the retention. Okay, that's just terrible. You need to use this strap to keep the knife secure, which means every time I reach for the thing, I've got to fumble with the strap. Every time I put it back in the sheath to resecure it, I've got to fumble with the strap. Now, there are knives that do have strap retention, but they're designed for, in my mind, much easier thumb break and resecuring. This one is just, yeah, it's unpleasant. A third thing about these, well, at least these nylon sheaths that I've discovered, and I just re-ran an experiment since I don't get a chance to go camping. I actually kind of sent the knife camping without me. We're in one of those periods where I've got 6 months of endless rain. I set it outside in a light rain for a short period of time, and in pretty much nothing flat, it soaked through like a sponge. It's not weatherproof at all. We brought it inside where it was nice and warm and dry, and it took 2 days to dry out. Now, the good news is, because the finish on this knife is intact, and we will talk about this when we get to the good thing, corrosion minimal, so it'll get back to that subject, but yeah, for me, the sheath alone is one of the major reasons I just don't pick these knives up when I've got a job to do. All right. Reason 2 that, yeah, I tend to pick almost any other knife to use when I've got a hard job to do. We got to talk about the stock grips. Now, I will be talking about pricing here. It is on the list, but I'm going to get to that one last for a reason. But the grips that come with these models are, frankly, awful. They're plastic. They're smooth and slippy. They feel cheap, like you're picking up a $5 machete. Now, obviously, they're easily removable, and you can replace them with much better grips, but we're going to get back to that subject when I talk about price. But yeah, price for the money. The grips that come with these knives are just kind of unforgivable. Okay, time to talk about the finishes on these blades. Again, remember that comment I keep getting over and over and over again, specifically about this knife, that it doesn't look like it's touched anything in its life. And I have to admit, yeah, I've been reluctant to let it touch stuff because I realize how fragile these finishes are. Now, in that original video, showed you the BK10 later generation that had a worse finish. I described it as being like spray-on rhino liner. It was not only fragile, so that pretty much anything could scar it, but it was rough and porous. So if it got dirty, I couldn't get it clean. And it actually gave resistance to the blade passing through certain binding materials like cardboard and wood, so it had to go. Later, I did a video featuring my BK2 where I put it to some abuse, and it wasn't hard at all to destroy this finish. You can peel it off with another knife. It is not much more durable than, yeah, spray paint. Refinish that knife. So yeah, it's probably what's going to happen to this one, because one of the reasons why I haven't put this one to any serious use is, well, I'm straight up reluctant to. I don't want to ruin the finish. And yeah, that's a problem. Okay, so all of my previous complaints pile on to this one. And that's price, more specifically inflation. When I bought my BK knives, they were pretty affordable. I bought this one for about $60. It's going for more than twice that now. They've all gone through the roof in terms of price. Given the issues I've got with, well, the things I don't like that I feel are, well, cheap, that make me not want to put the knife to use, the sheaths, the stock grips, the finish. Yeah, it's like compared to, well, the competition, the knives I do actually pull out and use on a regular basis and don't have these issues with. And there's a lot of competition out there on the market, but we'll talk about why Becker has the potential to stand up to that competition here in a second. I promise I'm going to get to the good news. But yeah, now, yeah, you can upgrade. You can get a new sheath, but I was looking at new Kydex sheaths and they're about $70, more than I paid for the knife originally. Yeah, you can get new grips or make them, but I was going to recommend these G10 scales in a separate video. Picked them up at the time, and it wasn't all that long ago, for $35, and they've already gone up to $45, $50, $90 for a pair of replacement grips. I shouldn't have to double the price of the knife that's already doubled since the time that I paid for it to get a sheath and grips for it that make it something that I actually like to use, and then still I've got to refinish the thing. So value for the money is really taking a dive for me. All right, let's get to the good news. Now I get to the part where I tell you why the Beckers are potentially worth it. And that is the durability, the quality of the blades. Now, I showed you in another video that I took that awful coating off this BK10, and this is just a sloppy, quick, cold blue job. But it's made me like the knife a lot more, and yes, I did invest in some new grip scales for it. Completely changed the knife. While I was at it, I reshaped a few things. So potential for a knife that you can customize, improve, modify, very high. You've got a wonderful piece of steel to work with. Speaking of which, all right, the refinishing job I did on the BK2 after I literally went out and chopped cinder blocks and concrete slabs with the thing. There was some edge damage, but it was pretty easy to reprofile and fix. The finish was completely destroyed and nothing flat, but again, stripped it off, gave it a basic out-of-the-bottle cold blue, and it's got an awesome durable finish on an awesome, really durable blade. I probably might break down and get the expensive scales for this too one day. All right. This one still has the original finish. Probably not for much longer, and then you'll see a follow-up video. But remember the experiment I did with the Sheath when I left it out in the weather? Okay, I left it out in the rain for 3 days, just to be thorough, and then brought it in and just left the knife in that soggy sheath for another 3 days. This is a 1095 Crovan blade. It's not supposed to have any significant corrosion resistance, but, well, the finish completely resisted corrosion. I have to give it that. Okay, the finish did resist corrosion. That's the one thing it did right. But the parts of the blade where the steel is exposed, where I put in my little, choil here, and the edge, there's a couple of micro spots of corrosion, but it held up to being wet and soggy for days just fine. So this is the point where I ask all of you guys to give me, well, your thoughts, your opinions, your experience with Becker knives. And I've already gotten a lot of feedback from, well, a lot of you. The positives and the negatives. But I wanted to kind of get this video out of the way to, again, address why this knife looks so pristine out of the box. Which gets me to, again, the things that I'm not too crazy about Beckers for. And yeah, this still does bother me. All right, awesome chunko steel with a lot of potential. But is that what I'm paying for? Am I paying for something where basically I'm literally throwing away or stripping off everything else and starting with, well, a blade blank? Yeah, that makes me reluctant to, well, if anything was to happen to these, I would be reluctant to replace them. Let me know your thoughts. Let's get our conversation going in the comments. Until next time, yeah, I'll probably do a follow-up when I refinish this thing. But as usual, thanks for watching, subscribing, following my journey, tolerating my madness, liking my videos, and I hope to see you back for, well, whatever stupid thing I do next.